All right. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Simulation. We are featuring Harpreet Rai.
What's going on? How are you, Alan?
Thanks for coming on to the show.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Glad we're able to connect.
Heck yeah. And especially because the technology that you're building with Oura Ring is super important for our world, and you can't even tell. Like, pass me one of those. These are so interesting. So what we have here is Oura Ring, and Oura Ring is now helping you measure your sleep.
Yep.
It's helping you measure your heart rate variability, and it's doing this beautifully on an app for you. I mean, and making it really relatable. You can't even tell that you're wearing this.
Yeah, it's it's making the visible invisible, right?
That's a good tagline.
And then also making the invisible visible. There's all these things happening in your body, and we're trying to show people sort of how they can learn about how those things work, and understand and make better lifestyle choices to improve their lives.
Yeah. So before we unpack all the lifestyle choices and everything, and how you guys are helping people, how about we talk about this team is in Finland?
In Finland, yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then that's a place of quite a bit of interesting circadian rhythm.
A ton.
Impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty interesting. It's a good point you brought up. So when you look at Finland, if any of you guys go, it's dark half the year and really, really bright half the year. And because of that, obviously, they've been doing research on circadian rhythm. Obviously, people are faced with sort of starker, climate changes, night and light. And so because of that, they've been researching it almost longer than anyone. So a lot of good sleep technologies come out of the Nordics, especially Finland.
Mm-hmm. And that's like 6 months, like the summer months, there's not much nighttime.
Correct.
And the winter months, there's not much daytime.
Yeah, that's right. So I'll be there next week, and I mean, it'll probably be light until, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and it'll get dusk for a little bit, and then come, 4 a.m., 5 a.m., it's bright and sunny again. And in the winter, it's the exact opposite. So the summer is awesome. It's also hard to go to bed because you're like so amped because it's like, it's 10 o'clock and it's bright outside and you're with your friends finishing up dinner or a drink and you're like, oh, this is awesome. It's just like late summer nights. But the winter is the exact opposite. So it's a little bit more depressing.
So all this research that's been done in the Nordics on sleep, what have been some of the things that have been learned?
It's a really good question. I think a bunch is sort of two main topics: how much sleep matters, sleep being this optimal time where your body recovers, where your mind recovers. I like to think about it as sleep's the foundation of your body and your mind. And we'll go through some stuff. I think you had Matt Walker's book out here earlier, so I think he does it the best. But and I think the other area too is just sort of this light exposure. So going to bed is one thing, but then getting that light exposure as well early in the morning to get your circadian, your circadian clock aligned and getting all the right hormones. Actually it's called sort of your wake drive versus sleep pressure. We don't need to get into too much of that now, but just starting your day off right. And if you think about us in San Francisco, my day today, woke up pretty early, did a bunch of calls inside, jumped in an Uber to come meet you here to tape this. Didn't really get much sunlight. And that's not how we were designed. So artificial light, blue light at night, or just fluorescent lights during the day, not getting sunlight, is another big issue in today's society. So I think you've seen a lot of this work manifest itself. Circadian biology, there was a Nobel Prize just last year about it. So it's starting to gain a lot more attention.
So it's about how much sleep we get and how much light we get, sunlight.
Yeah.
So the Nordics have been studying this, and then the Nordics are now like, let's make something to help us better understand what exactly is going on with these biometrics. We always talk about the importance of figuring out how to measure the data that we leave behind, how to make it applicable to our lives.
Totally.
And so that's kind of what you're doing with sleep, heart rate variability.
Yep.
So, okay, so now this is now, I mean, I remember seeing your first version And your first version was a lot larger.
Yeah.
I mean, you were able to really thin this down quite a bit. And
Totally.
I know Ron has got a bunch of images, and let's throw one of those up into the stream. Yeah. And you'll see here, like, that's a really good close-up of the ring.
Yeah.
And this is puny. I mean, it's puny in size comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, look, it's we're trying to get it down to something people would want to wear every day. I think Kara Swisher, in one of her podcasts a couple of years ago, you know, from Recode, she talked about how she calls them unwearables. Like some of the things are so distracting or so bulky, or they take away from sort of your sense of fashion, right? Something being personal.
Exactly.
That we're trying to make, you know, these in different colors so that they're sort of, you know, not noticeable. They just blend in with your life. You know, there's no lights, no digital lights on it. That was done for a conscious effort.
Yep.
Right. We want it to, you know, be part of your life, right? Not have your life revolve around it. Not just another thing to keep checking.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I love this rose gold one in terms of color.
Yeah.
I think that one looks great. This matte black one looks amazing. Silver looks amazing as well. Now, like you said, you don't want it to be too, there's the collection. We got a discount code as well for everyone. Link in the bio. Definitely go check out Oura Ring. Now, here's something that you just mentioned. You don't want it to be, you know, to take away too much from your lifestyle, like be too bulky. You guys have gotten the technology down to a very small amount. So let's, you know, we'll unpack the technology as well for you right now. So as we look at, you know, what are these three lumps down here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, those little lumps.
Yeah, the little lumps.
Not those lumps, other lumps. So there's three of them. There's two on the outsides and one in the middle. So the two on the outsides are infrared LEDs, so light emitting diodes, and then the center one's actually a detector, infrared detector. And so we're shining light. We chose infrared, so it's not green. It doesn't bother you while you sleep. You know, it's invisible. If anything, there's been scientific literature about infrared being healing to the body. But we use infrared light. We're shining that light 250 times a second.
That's a lot of
it's
shining.
It's a lot of shining. Yeah. And the battery
think other people are doing way less than that.
Yeah, I would say the lowest we've seen out there in the market has been as low as like 2 times, 3 times a second. I think some of the other devices while they're in workout mode are about 20 to 40 hertz or 40 times a second, and we're sampling at 250 hertz. So that allows us to get actually a much more accurate picture of your heart rate and your heart rate variability, which a lot of people are using to measure stress, which is pretty interesting. And we also use this information for sleep staging as well.
Yep. Okay, so then the two infrared are shining, and then you're sensing from this infrared sensor. Yeah.
Most wearables are sort of, if you want to think about it like a radar gun, you're shining something, but then it has to bounce back. So most radar guns have both parts. They have like an emitter and a detector. So our detector is just in the middle, and we have two different LEDs that emit light.
And you're using infrared, so that way it's invisible to the eye, so you can't be disturbed by it during sleep.
Yep. Definitely. Yeah. There's some nice characteristics about infrared, but that's definitely one of them we liked.
What are some of the other ones that are good?
I mean, some of the other ones, I think every wavelength, if you get into the optics side, they have their benefits and negatives. So infrared tends to be better for some of the, I would say use cases that we're using for heart rate. That's about all I can say. So I think for our use case, for especially sleep detection, HR and HRV, infrared tends to be pretty good.
So now let's talk about. Go ahead.
There's a couple other sensors in there I can talk about.
Let's talk about the other sensors.
So you can't see them all. So we have 2 different thermistors or temperature sensors.
Thermistors.
Yeah.
What about the thermoses? Where are the thermoses?
I don't know. Yeah. It must have been a dude who came up with that name. So there's 2 thermistors in there, or temperature sensors. We use that as well. One of the things we talk about, or you'll see when you use the ring, if you're getting a cold, we'll be able to see that body temperature start to increase. So we try to point that out to people so they can try to do something about it, or at least take it easy that day, because most times you'll start to see, some of the you won't feel the symptoms until it's too late. So try to get you some information early there. And then we also have an accelerometer in there and a gyroscope as well.
So that acts as a pedometer for steps.
Pedometer for steps, and we're going to be doing more on the activity tracking side in the future as well.
What else would an accelerometer or gyroscope tell?
You know, most people in the wearable space have used them just for detecting, you know, steps, running, but then also other general movements. So I think...
I heard that the faster you walk, the longer you live.
I actually don't know about that.
Like the longer your strides are.
Huh.
Yeah.
Is that just saying taller people live longer?
I'm not sure. No, it's proportionate to the height as well.
Proportionate to the height.
Proportionate to the height, yeah.
Huh. So I guess loose hip flexors, probably.
Yeah.
You're taking bigger strides, you breathe deeper, probably sleep better.
Higher heart rate and more cardio work while you're walking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
New Yorkers live longer than the average US, right? They walk a lot.
Walk a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got those 2 thermistors or temperature sensors, 2 LEDs, that 1 detector, and then an accelerometer and gyro. Right now we're just doing...
all in this little space.
All in that little space, and it's lasting 6 nights or 7 days.
Without charging?
Without charging.
How did you squeeze it all in here and then it lasts 7 days?
Huge confession, we have an amazingly talented team.
Your team is so good.
Our team is amazing.
Yeah.
Like they're just, you know, great signal processing, you know.
Timu.
Yeah, Temu, you met Temu.
Yeah. Temu's awesome.
He's actually on the app and cloud side. He's not on the hardware side.
And he's still so cool.
He's still great. No, he's phenomenal. We're really, really lucky to have an awesome team. There's great hardware engineers in the Nordics. Yeah. So, you know, if you think about Nokia, right, at one point was the largest phone company in the world, you know, out of Finland, right? Think about Ericsson, you know, the #1 producer of sort of cell phone tower equipment. Again, a lot of signal processing. So a ton of hardware expertise in the Nordics as well, and I think people often overlook that.
Now, you listed the sensors, and then you started telling us, like, okay, there's with the thermistors that are monitoring temperature and then making recommendations. Give us these kind of like recommendations that you're giving, like, okay, my heat's going up, and then you're like, yo, you might be getting sick.
You might want to take it easy. Actually, we had a screenshot
of the apps.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's get into the app screenshots.
So I think
Ronnie's going to come in hot with one of those.
Nice. Here we go. All right. So this is mine from this morning. You know, we started this around 11:20, but you know, today my message was challenge myself. And if you click next on the next picture, so it says here on my readiness score, your low resting heart rate indicates you're well rested. And here's a resting heart rate curve for the last few days. So you can see I was sort of averaging 50, and last night I hit 46.
Wow.
So I'm pretty well rested. And then we'll even give you, if you click on this screen in the app, if you go to the next picture, you'll be able to see some more of the data. So this is my heart rate data. And my readiness score, you know, my average, my minimum. And if you go to the next slide, or next picture, sorry, here's an example of HRV. So you can see my HRV, this is for a period of a week, is really high, so that also means I'm ready to train. And we'll give you information on all of it. And then if you go to one more, well, you know, this is also a view of sort of my deep sleep. So I got a ton of deep sleep last night, 2 hours, crushed it. And you know, a combination of all these things will give us that score in the beginning of the day that you saw. So
let's go. Okay, so combination of all these measurements is giving you the big score. So let's go back to the first one.
Yep.
And then we'll go back through these.
To challenge yourself.
So now we'll slow it down a bit.
Sure.
So okay, so your readiness score. This is your overall, what you see at the top. This overall out of 100.
Out of 100.
And that means how well I've been resting.
Sure. So readiness is actually this concept we've created that gives sort of a longer term view of sort of how your body's recovering and dealing with stress. So it takes into account sort of how you slept last night, but then also how you've been sleeping the last 2 weeks, your general activity load in the last 2 weeks as well.
Meaning?
We have different, you'll see, like if you go into, I don't know if we have a screenshot, but if you go through some of the images, Ron, keep going. One more. We took it, one more. I think that was it, right?
That might be it, yeah. Okay.
I didn't include it here, but we'll give you these different bars. Like this is just my sleep score, not my readiness score. So this one will show you a bar, show you how full it is, right? Readiness, the idea is it tries to take a longer term average. 1 night of sleep, you can sort of power through it if you get bad sleep. but it's that sort of cumulative sleep over a few days that
Correct.
really wears on you.
Which is why sometimes you sleep for 12 hours.
Totally.
Yeah.
It happens to us all,
All
I
the
feel
time.
like.
Yeah. And
But what we try to do is we'll give you that cumulative view of your sleep and that cumulative view of your activity and that readiness score. And then we sort of, based on that, that actually ends up being sort of how you feel, right? It's not just one night you can get through that, right? But a cumulative, 3 or 4 good nights, you're ready to go, or vice versa. A cumulative few bad nights doesn't even, that incremental night, even if it's okay, you still might be feeling in a bad
readiness
place.
might be like 50 or something.
Yeah.
So here there's a couple things that are interesting. I like the tranquility.
Yep.
That's really interesting. So as I wear this through the night, how do you sense whether or not I'm actually doing a wake up versus a movement?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. So we use a combination of all those sensors. So movement along with temperature and your heart rate to determine sort of, are you awake or are you sleeping? We actually got our sleep staging and our, done by SRI, or Stanford Research Institute.
Yep.
So that was published last year, and then, the end of last year. So we'll be doing another one for the Gen 2 ring, but we're very, very accurate detecting sleep or wake. And, there's more bars here. I wish we could scroll through the app live, but, there's a bunch more on the website. We'll include them in the show notes. But we use a combination of all this data to figure out if you're sleeping, how good was your quality of sleep. I remember last night my dog woke me up twice, and then the other time I woke up actually was because there was a mosquito in the room. And then it's cool to look at the data and be like, oh wow, I caught that period.
Accurate,
it caught that period when I woke up, and that mosquito was actually bothering the heck out of me. I was trying to swat in the middle of the night.
Yeah. So, and that could have to do with your heart rate increasing because you have woken up.
Sure. Well, and your movement, your heart rate, your movement, and your temperature.
Your temperature increases as well, or decreases.
No. So when you're sleeping, your body tries to cool itself. So your temperature, typically, your core temperature will drop, right? And when you wake, it's sort of the inverse.
The inverse.
Right. Yeah.
So there's great. So you have tranquility, the total sleep time, which is just in general this notion that we don't have a log of our sleep, and nobody wants to wake up and be like, oh, I slept, and you have to go and physically write it down or digitally log it yourself every time versus it being logged for you.
Logged for you.
And then you can look back at your past 2 weeks and you can be like, wow, I need to cancel my meetings tomorrow. I need to actually sleep in the morning.
Totally.
So you can get a better picture of your sleep, and how then it's also affecting how you feel the next day. You can start seeing how you feel.
Yeah, and I think what we try to do is distill it down to simple messages.
Yep.
So you saw that first message in the app screenshot.
The readiness score.
Yeah, the readiness score is like, all right, push yourself. I'm feeling good today. Maybe it was just we were excited about this podcast or this video cast, and I was excited to tape it, but I'm ready today. My heart rate's down. I've been eating well the last few days. You can tell my sleep. I've been getting good sleep the last few days, so I'm ready to crush it.
Yep.
Today I'm ready to give it, and I want to hit it hard if I go to the gym, or honestly just have a full day of packed meetings or do a bunch of work. Today's a good day for me to be productive. And so we try to distill all this data, right, down to some simple messages and try giving you guidance in the app on what you should and shouldn't be doing.
Yep.
So, I mean, you and I are data, we're like, oh, exactly. How does it know I'm exactly awake? Wait, what part in the temperature gave you that, right? But, the average user, they just want to be able, understand some of this data in a light way.
Relatable message.
Relatable, incorporate in their daily life.
Now, all right, let's go all the way back. Let's go back to the readiness score again.
Yep. So, and I can bust out the phone if it's helpful, or I don't know if it is, to show more stuff in the app.
Maybe. Okay, so once we go to the readiness score, back to the first slide. So here we have, you're getting told to challenge yourself. You're seeing the kind of like today, go back to yesterday and stuff. So now let's go to the next one, Ron.
Well, one other thing I'd point out. Yeah. So here we also give you an activity target for the day. So I know you can't see it got shit off here, but it says you can reach your goal by walking 5.5 miles, right?
Cool, for your activity target.
For your activity target. And this will change based off your readiness score. So today I'm pretty well rested. My goal is a lot higher, almost 6 miles or 550 calories, right? Mm-hmm. If a day that I had poor readiness, that goal would change, right? Because we want to sort of, balance the idea of sort of recovery and load. And so the days that you're really well recovered, you should be training hard. I mean, that's how pro athletes train. right, in days that they're not recovered, like post-game day, right, post-Sunday for NFL players, they're really not doing much on Monday, right, because they're still in a world of pain from Sunday and Saturday.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we try to do that as well, just by changing, even for now, your step goals, right?
Yeah. Is there a benefit of measurement of resting heart rate as you sleep? Because if I'm if I'm at like 45 or if I'm at 60, is that meaning I'm very much more anxious or less healthy or less rested when I'm 60? Because that's what these measurements are. These are the resting.
These are resting heart rate. These are just some other data points we capture in the day and just show you what your resting heart rate is. We've done some really good information in the app and on our blog post on how your resting heart rate curve should look. So Ronnie, if you can go forward a few images, I'll tell you where to stop. Stop right there. Oh, back one. So you can see here my resting heart rate occurred later in the night. That 46 was sort of towards the end of the night. If it was towards even earlier in the night, it would actually mean I'm more well rested.
So you want to drop quickly into your lowest heart rate.
Correct. If you're doing that, that means you're very well, you're really ready to train. Or for some type of, stress, mental stress, even the next day.
That's interesting because a lot of the meditators of the world have very low heart rates.
Okay.
They're very ready for life.
So that makes sense, right? But we actually show 3 different images that most of our heart rate patterns tend to sort of gravitate towards. And we give that information actually in our blog post, and we can link to it. Sort of how to look at your curve, your resting heart rate curve, and how to interpret it to determine if you're stressed or not. But again, we try making some judgment calls because my average was lower. 52 was lower than my average, for the last few days, right? And then my lowest resting one is also lower. And, now it would have been even better had it occurred earlier in the night. But, that wasn't the case. But I'm still ready to train today, for example. Or ready to have a lot, not actually working out today, have a bunch of back-to-back meetings. But again, we try to interpret all this data for users, and we break it down in our app and on our website to make it easy to understand.
And it's beautiful. It is. It's really well designed. You make it easier to understand for people that want to jump in and understand all the more of the nuance.
Sure.
Here you have heart rate variability. HRV. So let's break that down quick. So heart rate, how many times my heart's beating per minute, or a variability, the time between beats. Okay. So what's the significance of time
actually, if we can go to the next picture. So that's this is my weekly view of my HRV. And we give a pretty good example here, but it's exactly what you said, the time interval between heartbeats.
A person is relaxed, a healthy heart's beating rate shows variation.
Correct. So when you're
so the more variation, the more healthy you are.
Yeah, exactly. So it's sort of counterintuitive.
Because then when it's when your heart's beating like consistent, it's because you're maybe like stressed and you need to like sort your environment for predatory things, maybe like
that's exactly
danger,
right. Yeah,
stuff like that.
So your autonomic nervous system, or your fight or flight, right? That system that controls that. One of the things that people have been looking at as a measure of stress, or whether you're in sort of sympathetic or parasympathetic. So sympathetic would be that example, like an animal is coming, there's a lion that's jumping in the room, and me and you are like, damn, how are we going to get out of here? Right?
Kick it in its face.
Kick it in its face. Or I might just push you and I'll run. Kidding, I wouldn't do that. I would try to kick it in its face. I'd grab one of these, mics and throw it at it. But heart rate variability is exactly, as far as the nuances, it is a space between each heartbeat. You want variation. The higher the variation, generally the more relaxed you are, versus the vice, you sort of said it, when you're really tense and stressed, you can almost feel your heart beating, right? It's that like constant, right? It's like you're stressed. You're not, I almost like to think about it like a car. Like if you're driving a stick shift car and you're just like sitting there revving the engine, cruising, ready, like, ready to stoplight, like you have that variation, you're ready to hit it, right? Versus if your engine was all the way revved up all the time, right? You might not be able to go right when you need to. So it's that concept of stress, and it's been linked to actually, HRV has been used for, plenty of clinical areas, but a lot of it has been, HRV being a good indicator of heart attack and stroke, cardiac stress, actually even for, there's been some for PTSD, some for, some therapy-related work in there has been shown that by looking at HRV, you can see when they're actually overcoming or when they're having bad, sort of bouts of PTSD as well. So there's been a whole ton of, new work that's been going on in heart rate variability as this sort of new way to look at our heart rate data that's tied to our nervous system.
Oh man, HRV is such an interesting measurement. Okay, now what does anywhere below 20 to over 100 mean? So below 20 is not as healthy then, and over 100 is
sure.
healthier.
So we don't try to call...
and it's milliseconds is
it's
what it
milliseconds,
means? Oh,
yeah.
so... Okay, so then we're following a milliseconds.
Yep,
Okay,
a variation.
A variation.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Oh.
It actually is
Okay.
So the time unit we give is called RMSSD. So it's the root mean squared of successive differences between two, a few beats, right?
Between a few beats.
Well, yeah, technically every single beat.
Yeah.
Right, and then you average it over a certain time period. Do you want to take the HRV over 1 minute, over 5 minutes, over the whole night?
Yes.
So what we do is we measure it every 5 minutes and give it an average. So we do these 5-minute average blocks, but
Got
we
it.
measure every single beat.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a millisecond unit. We don't, we don't want to say that sort of under 20 is unhealthy. But what we want people to sort of realize is whether they're stressed or not stressed, and realize the things that improve. So for me, actually, like when I go do some cardio activity, if it's light cardio activity, my HRV improves. Or if I go have a heavy workout, I'll sort of improve 2 days after because I need a day to recover. If I go drink a bunch of alcohol and eat a late meal and eat a greasy burger with some fries, my HRV will get smoked. It'll be down a ton.
Yeah.
And so you can start to see sort of how your lifestyle choices are affecting that HRV or stress metric.
Damn.
Yeah.
You can start measuring your eating habits, how they affect you, how your drug habits affect you.
Totally, yeah.
How your stress habits affect you.
Yeah.
I mean, wow, this is, and then you get a visual representation of it in a scientific, objective form.
That's exactly right.
Which then further ties you closer to your own body and your own habits and your own actions.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
I mean, here's an example. I used to drink tequila was like my drink of choice, right? Tequila on the rocks, right? And I was seeing my best friend. We hadn't caught up in like a year, and I, sat down with him, and I had like a steak dinner and just two glasses of tequila. Nice tequila on the rocks with a lime. But man, my HRV was smoked. I slept like crap. My resting heart rate was a ton higher. I started to realize that, man, having heavy, like a hard liquor like that late in the night, right before I go to bed.
And a fat steak.
Definitely didn't do well for me. Versus now when I do have a drink, when I meet up with friends, like I'll try to have something earlier. I tend to stay away now from sort of the hard spirits. I'll just have a beer with a buddy, at 4 or 5 p.m., right? And that way my body actually digests it all. I go to bed and I still get great sleep and I'm recovered.
Huge difference between a beer at 5 or 6 versus a beer at 1 or 2 a.m.
Yes.
Yeah, huge difference. And most of the time we're kind of chasing after the feeling of being more intoxicated, the feeling of being more loose, which is why we take that last one at then.
Yeah.
But then it's interesting once you get all these biometrics back. Do you continue to? How do your habits change?
So for me,
your
it changed.
Sleep habits
it
as well.
changed dramatically. I started realizing, once I saw that data, oh man, that extra drink is really a bad choice, right? Or another one I realized was just, dude, when I ate dinner. I was doing intermittent fasting. I used to eat really late and started to realize that was affecting my sleep.
Yep.
And so I moved my intermittent fasting window way earlier, finishing dinner at 6 p.m. And, then when I go to sleep, now my HRV is better, my resting heart rate's lower. I wake up feeling better the next day, right? And that's what I was doing intermittent fasting in the first place for, to feel better, right? To lose weight, feel better, have more energy. And turns out actually that way wasn't optimized for me. So you can see what works for you, and then you make that lifestyle change. I think, for me, it's always hard. You have so much going on in your life. You're distracted by your cell phone. You got 5 meetings back to back the next day. You don't really have time to ask yourself anymore how you feel. Right? And it's totally true, right? We wake up, we're barraged by messages, right?
Yeah.
But I think what's really cool is if you wake up and check some of this data that's objective, you can start to better understand, actually, oh yeah, how do I feel? It brings you back into your body a bit.
Yep. Oh man, that was a good explanation of heart rate variability. Hell yeah. Okay, and then let's go on to the next one, Ron. And so now deep sleep. Okay,
Yeah.
so what's the difference between sleep and deep sleep?
So look, I'm going to borrow one from Matt Walker here. All stages of sleep are important.
Yes.
They all have their vital functions. Deep sleep, I think, is probably of more interest to some of the guys in the room, just because your testosterone release, majority of that happens during deep sleep. A lot of the physical muscular repair happens during deep. And so, you know, in that sense, like, yeah, you know, deep sleep is pretty important. And a lot of it...
Restorative,
rejuvenating.
Rejuvenating.
Yeah, enabling muscle growth and repair. So we give you that description right there in the app. So yeah, I did really well last night. I hit, you know, 2 hours and 5 minutes, which is awesome.
How do you know that it's deep sleep versus other?
So we have, you know, some algorithm, you know, development that we've done, looking at that heart rate data in combination with that temperature data, movement, and respiration rate, which we also capture to figure out what stage you're in. And we got it validated with a third-party SRI, Stanford Research Institute, as well.
Yeah.
So we've done a pretty extensive, you know, analysis of that, obviously, before launching our product.
And do you want more? Do you want to be closer to 35% of your total sleep time being deep sleep?
You know, so it's going to vary depending on what stage you are in your life. So
young people have more deep sleep?
Young people have more deep sleep. Yeah, I mean, I've seen some younger sort of 21-year-old college athletes that have like 2 to 2.5 hours every night. You know, they're in the top 1% of our data. I think the average in our that we've seen on average is a little bit below an hour, which is about what it is, you know, when you look at some of the medical literature. But you'll see actually as you age, it tends to go, you know, get, you know, a little bit worse and worse. You know, one of the things that they found out, you know, in terms of sleep science, this is published last year, I forget which journal, I think it was Cell, but they found out actually also within deep sleep is when this plaque is removed from your brain. It's called beta amyloids. And this same plaque, actually, they found out is, you know, they think is linked to Alzheimer's, because people who have Alzheimer's tend to have high amounts of beta amyloid. And yet we found that deep sleep, it's actually this process when the brain is getting rid of some of that plaque. Now, all stages of sleep are important. And so, but I think, you know, for a lot of people who are focused on an area that they're lacking in, it tends to be deep sleep.
And then do you make a recommendation on how to get more deep sleep, or was that something like we were talking about earlier with drinking late or eating late might influence?
Totally. So no, we right now we give light recommendations, right? So we'll try giving you sort of an optimal bedtime window, because timing again is a lot of it.
Yep.
Going to bed at the right time is going to help you actually get better deep sleep, believe it or not.
Yep.
And then same thing, you know, now what does it come to the timing of those lifestyle choices, whether it's eating, whether it's working out. And we are starting to actually compile what we call notes and tags. I didn't show any screenshots yet because we're still working on it. You met Damo. But the idea is for people to actually be able to quickly, you know, either us automatically detect or you manually input something you did and then tie that back to your sleep. You know, I think what's interesting is we spend a third of our lives sleeping, right? And we really don't, we all sort of take that for the most part for granted. And if I told you, Alan, hey, there's a pill you can take.
30 years of life
30
sleeping.
years of life sleeping, right? But what happens during those 30 years, right? We you know, normally consider it like boring, nothing's happening, but a ton of stuff is happening, right? Your muscle repair is happening, your cognitive repair is happening, right? Your hormone release for your optimal, like even like just emotional balance is happening, right? These plaques being removed from your brain is happening. I mean, if I told you, you can take a pill, and this pill is gonna make you lose weight, you know, actually lower your blood pressure, gonna make you think better, clearer the next day, have higher testosterone, right? Improve your memory. How many of us would take that pill?
Yeah.
Everyone would, right? But we sort of choose not to, whether knowingly and unknowingly.
And that's sleep.
Yeah, and that pill is sleep, right? Not take that pill every day, or not take as much of that pill as we can. So I think if we help people sort of understand this 1/3 of our life that we consider dull, and realize that actually this is one of the most vital parts of our, you know, of our like human lives, and it affects the other 2/3 of our lives, we think everyone's going to be much happier, better, performing better, whatever is important for them. So I think that's what we're trying to do at Oura. We're trying to show people sort of how these choices, right, that you make in your lives that seem innocuous have a huge impact on your sleep. Sorry for ranting.
No, you good. Like these relatable ways of understanding both sleep, heart rate, variability, how to live healthier, and having this readiness score every single day, being able to break it down into the nuance as well if you want, having it be so discreet, you know, you can't even tell, you can't even feel like you don't even feel like I'm wearing it.
Totally.
And it's just going to get smaller, and it's just going to get even more
smaller, better, more accurate, you know, longer battery life. So,
and yeah, 7 days is really good battery life. Okay, let's run through. Boom, there's our timer. That was really good timing with Ron and I. I was literally saying, let's run you through our last questions at the end of the show now.
Cool.
So, Harpreet, we talk about this a lot. We ask people what they think about wealth inequality and globalization. What do you think?
Man, I guess means and extremes, right? I think, you know, the average, you know, has probably gone up, right, in the world in terms of like, you know, wealth in certain countries, but the extremes are probably even more disparate than before.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think the low end and the high end has totally gotten pulled apart.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a huge issue for our society today. You know, I think in terms of one of the ways we try to think about it, though, is sort of your health is, you know, another part of your wealth, right? How you feel every day, sort of no amount of money can necessarily buy that. So for us, you know, being able to help people improve their health, you know, it's going to improve how you feel the next day, whether you're a millionaire, a billionaire, or just, you know, a guy who's in college or a girl who's in college, right, trying to do better on your next test. So I think it's a huge important topic, and there's definitely extremes that are happening. But I guess what we're trying to do is contribute what we can to the health side of it, which I'd actually call an important part of your wealth.
Yeah, that's a really good one. That's a good way to look at it. If you can help make your health, augment your health, it will make you feel really good throughout your life.
Yeah.
That's good. So, okay. Now, what do you think is the most beautiful thing in the world?
The most beautiful thing in the world? Man. I would say right now, because I'm already getting excited for it, the fall college football season. I just think it's an awesome time of the year. Everyone going back to school. I'm a huge college football fan. I went to Michigan, and it's sort of that time that everyone gets together to cheer for sort of a common cause.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's fun being around friends and fun getting out there.
Yep.
Yeah, and the fall weather is just something awesome. So.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something about...
My girlfriend's gonna like hate me. She's gonna be like, college football, come on.
Yeah.
You think it's the most beautiful thing in the world?
There's just something about 50,000 people that are all attending an event and rooting for a cause.
Yeah.
And that's why we want to fill sports stadiums for curious intellectuals.
Yes.
To learn at full day events, because we know the feeling of 50,000 people.
Yeah.
Because we ourselves understand the sports as well. We've been to all these different sports events and felt that energy. And so to be able to replicate that for curious intellectuals.
It's obviously not the most beautiful thing in the world. I mean, there's clearly a ton of more beautiful things out there, but there is something magical about that moment.
Yeah, something magical about those moments, yeah. Do you think we're alone in the cosmos?
Man, my personal view is no. I think the world is just too complex, and there's, you know, human life wasn't just an accident, right? Like there's so many, there's got to be, in my view, if we exist here, there's got to be types of other life that exist in so many different far-reaching places that, you know, I haven't even fathomed. So for me, it would be sort of the little that I do know about life, sort of incomprehensible to think that there isn't other forms in other places.
Yeah. And the multidimensionality of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And do you think there's a designer to the universe?
Huh. Man, it's a complex question. I think, you know, I do think we all are designers. I do think we have little choices that we get to make every day that have an impact. And we do have an impact on each other. You know, how we started this, you know, video cast, and, you know, whether we chose to have a good interaction or bad interaction, some of that was up to us. So I do think we are designers in our own right that affect each other. But is there like a master designer that's helping harmonize or disharmonize like every different person? I think so. I'm not sure, but I believe so. It's, again, like one of these things that just seems like almost too good to be true.
Who do you think would win in the scrap between you and the master designer if you had to fight?
He'd crush me. He or she or it would crush me.
Oh, come on, give yourself a little more credit there.
Oh.
I'll kick its ass.
Kick the
Fucking mess that he made here on this planet, dirty rat bastard.
You don't realize that you're actually fighting yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What about you? What do you think?
A lot of variables.
A lot of variables.
Yeah, a lot of variables.
A lot of variables.
But it's an exciting thought experiment. It expands the consciousness to new areas of thought that typically don't get a lot of we typically don't go there that much. So
totally. No, I tend to think that we as species tend to get very focused on one variable or two. You know, we were talking about the sensors in that ring.
Yeah.
That is one small variable.
Yep.
Right. There's so many other variables out there, right? And but yet we want to get really good at that one thing. You know, us as a company, we want to get really, really damn good at getting your sleep staging, getting your heart rate variability as accurate as we can. But that's like a very one small variable.
So take into account how ridiculous this would sound. You have two infrared lights. You have an infrared light sensor. Then you have an accelerometer, a gyroscope. Now think about how you're crunching all of those variables to provide heart rate variability, and sleep data, because you have to crunch all of this data to make the best sense of it, right?
Yeah.
Now this exact same analogy applies to the way we function politically and sociologically.
Oh, man.
Because if you only take one variable into account about immigration or healthcare or abortion or whatever the social issue is, all of a sudden you'll catch yourself not crunching enough data to have the most valuable sort of takeaway and opinion on the issue at hand.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, frankly, we even think about that to some degree when we're designing a product, right? Like, for some people, we may be able to isolate, oh, yeah, it was that drink you had at 2 a.m., bozo, right, that caused your heart rate to jack and for you not to get good sleep. But there's other people that, as people, we're more than one dimension. We're more than one action. And so there's a cumulative amount of actions and emotions that we have that affect how we feel and how we recover. So it's something that we're trying to actually do a better job of from a product perspective, but it's I think there was a quote from Stuart Butterfield. It's like, basically good product designers, unless you have empathy for your users, it's like hard to be good at this.
Yes.
I don't know what the exact quote is, right? But I think it's a really good point, is that we have to take into account all those dimensions. Like you asked, is HRV below 20 bad? Well, for a certain amount of our users, right, they will have HRV below 20, and they may have some type of emotional stress that they're dealing with, right? They may have PTSD, right? They may have Lyme disease, right? And so it doesn't necessarily mean that they can't still get value out of this tool, but we're trying to make a product, longer term that can help people in those different dimensions, sort of regardless of where they are.
Yeah. You made an interesting point there as well about isolation of the potential. You're isolating what it could be that is the cause of what the variables that you're measuring are. As in, you're saying that it could be the tequila, or it could have been something else about the person's health from the past that is affecting the way that their heart rate variability is functioning right now, or whatever it may be. And so because you're doing that, you're getting a better understanding of them, they're getting a better understanding of themselves. The data, you have more data to play with over a longer period of time. Yeah, this is very interesting technology, and it's very important for humanity to be able to measure biometrics about ourselves and understand how they can be made relatable to us. Yeah. So.
And I think it's a little bit of putting health back into consumers, in their own hand. I think a lot of it is today in today's society, like we normally wait to go see a doctor until we're sick. Well, if I was able to show you that, hey, every night you have that late drink or late meal that's affecting your deep sleep, right? And let's say less deep sleep, we know now there's a positive correlation with the development of Alzheimer's. You may be understanding that, or users understanding that these deep sleep hacks that might work for them can help them sort of be preventative, right? Versus reactive, right? Because then it's too late.
Preventative healthcare, and this is, this is really diagnosing, digitally.
Yeah.
And preventing the onset of disease ahead of time, because you are realizing that I'm not getting enough deep sleep, or my heart rate variability is too low.
Yeah.
And that's super important. And look at how you've packaged it up. Really smart team that's been able to put this together.
Yeah.
Really great work, you guys.
Thanks.
It's very impressive. Everyone, definitely check out Oura Ring, ouraring.com. Also, there's a discount code in the bio. Discount code simulation, $50.
$50 off for everyone.
$50 off your Oura Ring, and it's $299 right now.
$299 to $399.
$299 to $399 right now.
The matte black, or the stealth as we call it, and the rose gold are a little bit more expensive of a finish. So.
But this totally worth getting a better understanding of what's going on with your health, a bigger picture of it, and also taking care of yourself by analyzing that data. You get these recommendations from Oura Ring, which are amazing. Harpreet, exceptional work. I am super grateful to have had you on the show.
Likewise, man.
Teaching us about this.
No, likewise, it's a pleasure to learn from you and just be part of it.
Thanks, my man. We're gonna be doing a good amount of testing with this ourselves.
Sweet.
Soon, simulation will also be running tests and providing feedback to people, and also letting people know how it's going with us, and then also recommending more people to join us in the movement to inspire more people, thinkers and doers, into our world to build the future. Awesome episode. Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you guys had a good time, definitely give us a comment below. Let us know your thoughts. We want to be engaging with you in this community. Also, definitely don't just consume this content. Go and create with it. Go make something with it. Write a post, make a video. Maybe go and explore sleep in more detail yourself. Explore heart rate variability. Maybe start a company in it. Get excited about it. Also subscribe. Join the family. Join us on Patreon. We need to continue sustaining this and growing it, so join us there. Thanks, Ron, our producing partner. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ron.
Yeah, much love. Peace.
Right now.